Hook links are critical, and having a full understanding of their properties is essential for success.
If I think carp are getting away with it, I'll then start working back along my rig, starting with a hook link. First thing I'll look at is the length of my hook link. It may be, for example, it's too short. You can tell that normally by the hook holes. If the fish always hooked in the lips in the front, then they're not being able to take it back properly. So just try and lengthen your hook link. Or if you're using what you feel is quite a long hook link, it may be they're fed in the hook link or the hook before the hook link's tension against the lead and coming into play. So try shortening it down a bit and see if that makes a difference. But really I think it's the properties of the hook link, soft against stiff, and I'm not worried about the thickness. I've always had a view that carp don't really suss a fine hook link against a thick one. In fact, I generally use thick hook links because I'm worried about cutting the carp's lips. I think if you've done your job, by the time they're pricked, it's too late anyway. But rather it's about whether the hook link is really stiff or subtle, because that is really about movement. I mentioned Warmwell, where anglers were casting out. I visualised the hook link looping around the lead, so the carp were conditioned to amount of movement before they would slow down and test the rig. And just by using a stiff rig, so there was no movement, that's caught them out. The opposite happened to me in the 80s, and it's another illustration of how you can fish with a stiff rig without even using one. In fact, this is before stiff rigs come out. The method at Harefield then really was to cast out and pull back until you felt gravel, then drop your rig and put it in the rod rest. So really you straighten out your hook link. So unless the carp approached it from behind the lead, every other angle the hook link would be straightened out. Although we're using soft subtle braids, it's just the same as fishing a stiff rig. So they was conditioned to, the moment they sucked in the bait, to be very careful how they levelled up to feel if they could feel the lead. What I started doing then was marker floating until I found the gravel bars, and then accurately casting and letting the lead just drop straight down without pulling back. And the difference that made was amazing. My take rate shot through the roof. That's a method I've used many times since on other waters. You can have anglers standing next to you trying to suss out what you're doing, but they never suss out that it's just down to your cast and not pulling back. Or indeed it could be the opposite, pulling back. As I mentioned, that then makes a subtle rig into a stiff rig. It's the little things like that that can really make the difference. For most of my barley or pop-up fishing, I'm generally switching between one of 4 hook links I like. The one I prefer to use, basically because it's the least hassle, is missing link. That's our version of a coated hook link, the trend towards plastic coated hook links. We spent a lot of time developing it, and I like it because it's got a really soft, supple braid, but the skin is quite resilient to cracking and splitting when you tighten the knots down. Very user friendly, casts without worrying about tangles. It's a good all-round hook link. I really am a massive believer in having a soft, subtle element in my hook link so that the hook can easily turn and prick. So with the missing link, I'll strip back at about 1.5 inches of the outer skin. So lovely and soft and subtle. As soon as the carp sucks it in, tension's against the lead, hook turns and pricks. So if you like, it's a combi rig, although I think it's a lazy man's combi rig. Nice to use, easy to tie, but certainly I've found on really riggy waters, you've got to go to the extreme of what I would call the proper combi rig. Like I first started using at Warmwell, and now used to this day. The only difference being then I used 20 pound amnesia, and now I use our soon to be launched chod link. That's a really stiff hook link we made for chod rigs, but it's also great for combi rigs. To that I'll tie a couple of inches of armour braid to give me that flexible front hinge. Brilliant combi rig that really nails them. One thing with combi rigs, proper stiff ones, you've got to be careful what lake bottoms you fish them over. If it's pretty sticky silt or weed, the stiff element might stick straight off the bottom and won't contour to the bottom. So just be wary of that. Maybe that's another time when missing link, be a good choice instead, because it's more likely to contour to the bottom. You get trends in carp fishing. Everyone starts writing about a method and gets on it, or a company are heavily advertising something, and hook links is no different. As I mentioned, in the 90s everyone was on Christian silkworm, and I think it's fair to say probably the last 10 years the majority of anglers has been on hook links that have got a sheave on them because they're so easy to use. So again, anglers are conditioning the carp, all using the same hook links, and the carp are sussing them. And they all think they're using a great combi rig, but as I've mentioned again, I think my version, or anglers, I won't call it my version, but anglers who use a proper combi rig with a true stiff element like chod link really do have an edge. I think if I look back over the last decade, the rig I've caught most of my carp on would definitely be a combi rig with a true stiff element. When I do need a soft, supple hook link, need to put movement into it to trick the carp, that's when I use our armour braid, which is a softer braid. It's not skinned. It's not the softest of braids, to be honest, but I'm not a great lover of these super soft hook link braids because they're so difficult when you're casting for tangles and all that. Nothing worse than getting it out there and wondering if you're fishing with it tangled. Armour braid's got the perfect balance, if you like, for me, of softness against an element of stiffness. Plus the major edge for me of armour braid is it's so strong and so abrasion resistant. They tow oil rigs with the stuff, and when you're big fish fishing, you don't want to leave anything to chance. You always want strong tackle so you can land them. I better mention that we're going to change the name of armour braid to armour link, just in case an angler's looking for it and can't find it. Armour braid, or link, whatever you want to call it, has also got another couple of excellent properties. One is it's really, really heavy. Check out a lot of these soft hook links and they barely sink. Armour braid sinks like a brick, so it always contours to the bottom. But its other major edge to me is its amazing strength and abrasion resistance. Abrasion resistance is key to me in my tackle. I'm fishing for big fish. I don't want to, after a long wait, lose one because hits a branch or something. It's a really terrific hook link. I'd recommend it to anyone. Trigger link. This is an interesting stuff. Back when I was on that gravel pit playing around the rigs, I also played around with incorporating elasticated elements into my rig, but I got on the blowback rig, so I kind of forgot about it, which thankfully for me I did find the blowback rig because it was so difficult to tie lumps of elastic into your rig. You're trying to tie a knot accurately to length and the elastic stretching. But I kind of went back to it, I think probably about 6-7 years ago. I really have always understood the relevance of putting elastic into your setup. Even, for example, fishing your rod tips side to the line so the rod tip can come into play can make a big difference. I spoke to a hook link manufacturer and I come up with the idea of using PVA. So basically we've woven the braid with elastic and PVA, so when you take it off the spool it's non-stretchy, so you can accurately tie your hook link to any length you want. But as soon as you immerse it in water it shrinks back, approximately about 25%. So you put it in water, the hook link shrinks back, and then it's ready and loaded for Mr. Carp to come along. Mr. Carp comes along, picks it up, tensions against the lead, and the elastic element comes into play, pulling the hook in deeper than what it normally would. It really can catch them out. I used it in my DVD In Pursuit. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but you see it with the big common I caught at the beginning. The tape was all twitchy and bleeps. I can't remember now, it might have been 15-20 seconds before it roared off. That's a carp that's been caught out and don't know what to do with itself. I have no problem in saying trigger link hasn't been very popular. That suits me down to the ground. Because, like I said, the less people on the method, the longer it'll work with a carp. But I really do think it's worth getting onto, and understanding. I think there's several reasons why a lot of anglers don't fancy trying it. The first one is it's thick. It has to be because it's got the elastic built into it, and they have trouble putting it through the eyes of their hook. you know, but we got that, you know, little tool of ours that you can easily pull the trigger link through the eye. Having said that though, I don't fish it straight through. Again, I go to the trouble of tying a combi rig and use 6-7 inches of it on the back and 2 inches of armour braid on the front. Another thing I think that puts people off trigger link is its colour. It's a really light colour. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about that either. It's impossible to dye it, but that's simply dealt with. I always rub mud or preferably tungsten putty into the hook link. It gives it a nice colour and it makes it sink like a brick as well. Like I said, for those who want to go to the trouble, make the effort. Fine tuning your rigs and putting that more detail into it can really make the difference, and I think there's no better example of a material that can make a difference in this day and age than trigger link.